Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video, we are going to take a look at plasma glow. And we're not going to do this in a typical fashion. We're going to do this where the glow kind of emanates from the center of the coils rather than the outside of the coils. By the end, you'll realize what I'm talking about here. We're going to use ceramite white with a little bit of medium, roughly a 1:1, just thinned out just ever so slightly, and we are just going to apply this into the coils of the gun here. And this model here has already been given a base coat of Rune Fang steel, just in that area, it was lead belcher, the spray, one of the two. Either way, we're just applying this over whatever prime happens to be down in that place. We're going to use this so that this is going to be the brightest point of our effect as we get started. And in this video, we're going to use contrast paints to achieve majority of our effect. THERMATIC blue with contrast medium, roughly a 1:1 mix ratio. Is just kind of just to thin it out ever so slightly. And basically what we're going to do here is after that ceramite white has dried, we are going to apply a nice thin layer. Now we're applying this roughly just over halfway down the coils on the side, allowing more of the color to build towards the corner of the coils, as it were, kind of upwards. We also lay a little bit down on the outside of the gun just to kind of start building up a kind of a glow effect, as it were, along the outer edge of the gun to create that illusion of a glow. That's what it looks like after about 2 layers. We're going to use Talisar blue next, and we're going to use some medium here, thin it down. Again, kind of a 1:1. Really, it's not too hard, too close a ratio, but just thinned out ever so slightly. And we're just going to lightly drag this along the raised corner of those coils. Now, if it falls in between, that's all right, but really what we were aiming to do was kind of catch the high points. Not too huge a concern, and you see here I'm laying right into the coils in between and everything like that. Building up the color at the top, and you can see here we're already starting to build up an effect where the coils down below are kind of brighter and the raised portions. So really what we're looking to do is create color along the raised portions of each of the coils. You can see here I laid the Talisar blue down and then feathered out the edges just to, obviously make it not such a harsh transition around the edge of the gun. Also too, that bright silver is not really the best background or backdrop for creating this effect. We're coming back in with THERMATIC blue, and then really fast I'm using a damp brush and drawing the excess out and feathering it out towards that bottom edge there. Again, you can see we're already starting to build up an effect, and if you're happy at any point, just stop. But we're going to go a little bit further. We're going to go with the LEVIADON blue. I've used the brush, drew it out into like a chiseling shape, and I was catching some of the high points here. But otherwise, I wasn't really satisfied with how this was laying on, and in fact, sticking within contrast, I was like, if you're going to do it with contrast, you might as well just use contrast the way contrast is, kind of designed, really. I've thinned it out just a little bit with the dampness of the brush, just a little bit of water, continue to create that deeper color around the outer portion of it. And you can see there's kind of heavy amounts inside the coils, and I do feather that out just a little bit. Ceramite white is next, and we're going to use some contrast medium. We're going to thin this down. It's sort of like a 1:1. It's really not. It's probably more contrast than it is white. I'm using the contrast medium because, again, we like that quality where it creeps into the recesses, and this is where this is going to be a lot of fun because basically I'm going to lay this down right at the bottom portion just to reestablish the white, heat of the glow. And I also use the brush just to kind of gently push it up into the in between of the coils, creating that separation between the coils. Careful if you're rubbing your fingers on that surface, just because you can end up kind of pulling the paint, and I did it one too many times and I ended up pulling the paint. But otherwise you just kind of lay that in, of course trying to clean it up around the outer perimeter of the coils, around the body of the gun. Come back in with some THERMATIC blue, THERMATIC, either way I'm laying it at the corner again just to reestablish those lighter blue tones, really to push this idea that is glowing in the kind of inside the coils. You want to have that brighter white going on, but you don't really necessarily want it to have too clean an edge, but you just want to create those light transitions in there. Yeah, at one point I ended up using my finger a little too often, and I ended up kind of muddling it up. But here it is after it's all said and done. It's all nice and dry, and there we go. Pretty easy effect to do with contrast. You just basically have to reverse the order in which you apply it onto the coils. Stay tuned for part 2. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below. There are varying tiers to support at. A huge thank you, and take care of those brushes. They will take care of you.